Welcome to the Wake Up Call for the Soul podcast with Bill and Claire, where we go deep and wide on subjects intended to support our awakening to greater truth, beauty, goodness, freedom, joy, peace, harmony, and love. In this episode, we move into some of our experiences related to this topic of Source and Satan, the divine and the demonic. And I guess when I think about it, this this perspective makes sense for me too, because in my world, the earth is this very unusual place. It's this very strange mixed bag of conditions of light and darkness, all kind of thrown together on this planet. And my understanding is that most planets don't have this situation. Most planets, it's all light and love, all up and down the ladder. There's just to infinity and beyond. But on this planet, we have these conditions. And it makes sense to me that, because I mean, some people think that when you're a spirit, you can just go wherever you want in the universe. I mean, sort of makes sense, right? Like I don't have a
Mhm.
physical body, so I can go anywhere I want in the universe. But my sense is that one's mobility within the spirit planes is determined by that spirit's development, whether it
Mm.
can go anywhere. So it makes sense to me that we don't have demons running throughout the universe. I mean, so when I think about Satan as a preternatural being and demons as preternatural beings, it seems to me that if they're preternatural, then I mean, it seems to me that they should have freer reign to just travel throughout the universe, causing all kinds of chaos on all kinds of different planets. And I
Mhm.
don't have any sense that they're able to do that. My sense is more what I described of this constraint, that they are limited and relegated to very specific places in the spirit world and even on Earth. I mean, we could talk about how they're even able to get, like, how does the spirit get from the deepest hells into the Earth plane?
Right.
Yeah, well, they have to be invited. Anyways,
Oh.
yeah, right? I mean, because yeah, oh boy. Yeah, we should probably talk about that. Yeah, so Hmm. Yeah, so I don't see preternatural. I see natural beings who are trapped within the conditions on this planet and that their operations are significantly hampered and limited by their spiritual condition on the earth. And that as spirits progress through light and love, their ability to travel into other places, realms, dimensions, aspects of the multi-omniverse, everything that is, expands in relation to that. That makes sense to me, that greater love and light equals more freedom, and that greater choices for separation and degradation, disease, destruction, and death are going to lead to more constrained choices. To where, I mean,
Mm.
my sense of some of the lowest hells is that it's literally like you're, in our houses, a typical ceiling height, I think in the United States is about 8 feet, something like that.
Mhm.
So in their world, I think that in these lowest hells, that my sense of the ceiling height is that it's more like 3 to 4 feet, like that
Yeah.
it's extremely cramped and condensed. It's extremely dark. The smells are awful, worse than anything you can smell on this planet, even the smell of death. I think what they smell and experience down there is beyond even the worst things we experience on this plane. Um, yeah. Yeah, but see, for me, for any beings, and actually, for me, it's true on both sides of the equation. That really, I mean, so on the divine side of the equation, I'll call these guys my friends angels. For angels to really uh, have much of a connection to us on Earth, we have to invite them because they honor our free will choices. And on the opposite side of the continuum, for those dark spirits, those living in the deepest hells, for them to actually come and experience the earth plane in any way, shape, or form, they have to have an invitation. Someone has to create the means for them to come into this reality. And I think of it as like a dark portal, whereas angels tend to travel. They like using things that I'll refer to as portals of light. Our friends that many people would consider to be demonic, I just consider them to be dark, super ridiculously lost and wounded souls, that for them to enter into this reality that they need a kind of dark portal made for them where people have to make choices that invite them in. through whatever means that they choose, and I'm guessing that some of that is in the realm of kind of some of the things you brought up earlier in terms of Satanism. And I don't claim to be an expert on any of this stuff, but it's just my sense that that's what's required, that people have to either consciously or unconsciously do things, be in certain ways that create the openings for any type of being to really come into this reality and make a rapport kind of a thing, to form a connection with any human being in this reality, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember this conversation because I wrote down some things coming into this conversation that I was wondering if they'd come up. And so now, I can think about I have two memories in my life where I remember being somewhere or passing through somewhere and having a really bad feeling about that place.
Hmm.
And my sense now is I don't know if these were dark portals or whatever. In the one case, I don't know. I remember being there and it's hard to describe, but it felt wrong, the place where I was. And then in another case, I was driving to work one morning and I passed under a particular overpass. And when I passed under that, like I just had this really bad feeling, like darkness, evil, whatever. And in that case, I think it was later in the day, I think I saw the local news and there had just been a murder in that location,
Oh, wow.
and that's one of the things that these really dark spirits will do. I mean, they will push people to suicide, to homicide, to, all kinds of awfulness. And so that made me wonder if either, and again, these conditions, they can be set up more permanently, these kind of dark portals, or they can be set up more temporarily. I don't know. I don't know in that case, but I just know there was one time I went under that bridge. I was like, this feels really bad. This feels really bad. And then seeing the news, I'm like, okay, well, probably some kind of demonic, activity leading to a homicide situation in that exact location that I drove through. Um, yeah, so those kinds of things, it just makes sense to me on my own experience. And I've had, there was a friend of mine in college, in undergrad, who they were messing with the Ouija board. This
Oh.
is this is another potential invitation that if
Hmm.
people don't understand how to set up spiritual protection, like what I did at the beginning of the recording here, if they don't understand the laws of rapport, if they're clueless about the afterlife, which in my experience, most people don't know or understand pretty much any of these things, and they think that the Ouija board is a game and that they're going to have fun. Well, those things can be a kind of a dark portal that can let things through and get attached to people or places in ways that people really don't appreciate. Well, my friend uh, in undergrad, he pulled me aside and wanted to talk to me in this private place. And I don't know, it was so interesting. He wasn't like my best friend, but we were in the same major together. And he's like, Bill, I got to tell you what happened. And he told this whole story of how he and some other people were playing like with a Ouija board and like they got some communication or something, but then there was someone on a different floor, I think the floor beneath them or something, and they were eating together because they were RAs, okay, resident
Oh, okay.
assistants in a dormitory situation, and this RA was what I would consider to be kind of a super Christian, and this RA was like, guys, last night this demon came to me in my sleep and told me his name and what he's up to and all this stuff, and like, the guys who had been messing with the Ouija board were like, oh crap. I
Uh-oh.
don't think they told him. I don't know if they told him what they had done. I can't remember if they told him or not. But anyways, like in the building, like electronics stopped working, like alarm clocks would just go off at random times. They would unplug them, remove the batteries, they'd keep going. Like all this strange, awful, sort of freaky, scary stuff was kind of happening. And I guess the RA, super Christian RA, I think he entered in some kind of wrestling match, I think, with this, what he considered to be a demon, what I would consider to be a really dark lost spirit,
Yeah.
potato, potato. But Anyways, the spirit's intentions for the people in this residence hall, they were not good. So eventually, and I can't believe I'm telling you this story, but I have no reason to doubt him. I mean, because he seemed genuinely like afraid, and it seemed like for whatever reason he felt like he could tell me about this, and maybe that I wouldn't say he was crazy. I was just fascinated by the whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't ever remember us having a spiritual conversation. Anyways, so he went through this story where he's then like, okay, we got to get rid of this Ouija board. And so he tried to, I think he tried to burn it or something because he had read maybe that could help, or someone told him that or something. He tried to burn it. He couldn't burn it. It wouldn't, it wouldn't burn. So
Amazing.
yeah. And then I can't remember what else did he tell me? I can't remember what he actually did. I think eventually he found a priest or someone who was willing to do some kind of exorcism on it or something. And that I don't remember exactly how it all ended. I was sort of in shock during the whole conversation of what he's telling me all this stuff. And part of me is like, is he trying to get over on me? But he seemed genuinely afraid. Like he had uncorked something that he had no idea what he'd done, and he was kind of horrified and terrified by the whole thing. So I believe after whatever the priest did with that Ouija board, that things settled down in the building after that, I believe. But yeah, anyway, so I have these stories, I have these experiences, these things that, and I guess I've come across other things that I'm aware of, but they're less specific, so I don't see a point in sharing those. But yeah, yeah. I mean, have you ever experienced anything like that? Like things that were just, I don't know, like a sense of darkness or these kinds of experiences of what people attribute to the demonic or whatever.
Yeah. Um, hmm. When I was a kid growing up, I had a lot of I used to sleep with my door open, and I thought that I was seeing basically like shadow people. They were kind
Mm,
of like misty white, kind of translucent.
hmm
Um, and I never thought that they were necessarily bad. I would say like I kind of just got like a neutral feeling from them. But
hmm
then I started to get really afraid.
mm,
And I know that it was around that age that I began having panic attacks for the first time. And it was sort of kind of the beginning of some of my mental health struggles that I have. And
hmm
I know that at one point I there was like see like and even like trying to recall this, sometimes I wonder like did I really see that? Um I really do like those
Yeah.
figures, like it could have just been because I was staring into like a dark hallway. But I remember there was kind of this like black cloud type
hmm
thing in like the ceiling corner like of my room,
hmm
and that didn't feel good. And I
hmm
also had, there was this time I had a classmate over for a slumber party, and we were sleeping like in the family room. And I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like somebody was like in my face, like
hmm
standing right there.
Yep.
And nothing was there, but I just had this really dark feeling. And she and I had just been talking about our experiences because she was a little bit sensitive to that kind of thing as well.
hmm
Um, and I was like, okay, that's really strange. I don't like that.
Yeah.
And so my mom decided to get some stuff for like smoke cleansing and praying, and we cleared out my room, and that thing never came back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I would say that was
Yeah.
probably like the closest experience that I've had. But I also I I've known how do I say this? I'm trying to say it without sounding like super dramatic. I've known a lot of darkness in my life, and I've seen a lot of things and witnessed a lot of things and experienced things that I think a lot of people would be really surprised if I told them.
hmm
And I think it's definitely things that people would not expect for who I am and how I grew up and that sort of thing. I think it would be a surprise to them.
hmm
And I think for a long time, like I used to wonder, like, do I have some sort of attachment? Is there something
Hmm.
feeding off of this? Is there
Hmm.
something influencing this? And there were times in my life that were extremely dark. And um, I would just I would wonder, like, is something trying to kill me? Is something trying to
Hmm.
do something to me? How do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And it really just it was misery. It was just
Yeah.
pure misery. And to the point that I started wondering, like, okay, if it's not something external, am I the demonic thing? Am I this like terrible low entity?
Mm.
And luckily I've gotten out of that. I'm very fortunate because it was just every day it was like just draining me. Um,
Mm.
so I think that that's another experience. And then the last one I'll kind of mention um was fairly recently last year, yeah. Um, I had known somebody, and I don't know if I've mentioned this one already, but um, I knew somebody and I had gotten quite attached to them, and they were just dark. And it was the strangest thing because I just got so attached so quickly, and it was very strange. And um, I could tell that I was in some sort of danger, and I'm not really gonna try to
Hmm.
explain too much what I mean by that because it's hard for
Hmm.
me to even explain, but I
Yeah.
felt like I was in danger,
Hmm.
and they one day just up and left and cut me off. And I
Hmm.
remember I was just so upset about it. And then there was this time I had meditated, I took a nap, and I woke up and I literally felt like there was, and this is kind of the opposite of demonic, but it felt like something light, like almost like these misty white, like I had this feeling of something being in the room, and it felt like they were either telling me or like literally in the process of moving that person, like removing them from my life, and
Hmm.
like taking with it all of this darkness and
Hmm.
anguish and really
Hmm.
just nasty, nasty things that I don't even want to talk about. Like just
Hmm.
taking all of that and
Hmm.
being like, we are removing this from your life to
Hmm.
for your own good. And I think I had asked for help, so it wasn't like they just swooped in and chose to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um, that feeling of taking away this what felt like just really dark energy, that to me, I was like, whoa, that was kind of powerful.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
so those are some experiences I've had.
Hmm. Yeah, you've definitely had some experiences. I was curious about your age, the age when you talked about kind of seeing the sort of misty white forms and
Yeah.
then leading to panic attacks. Around how old were you then?
I want to say I was around maybe 10 when it started. And then I think my first panic attack, I was 11 or 12 because
Hmm.
it started to
Yeah.
kind of progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just curious about that because a lot of times things will intensify um, pre-puberty a lot of times,
Yeah.
particularly for women. It's a
Hmm.
really common kind of pattern that I've seen with these kinds of things. So yeah, that makes sense. No, I mean, as soon as you said that you've had all this assurance that they were gone and separated in that last story you told, I mean, it
Hmm.
was my mind was like, did she ask for help? And I'm thinking, you totally asked for help because they couldn't do that if you didn't. They would those forces of light and love, they will stand by, they will do their best to support people, but they will not take that kind of action unless some request for help is made on some level of that person's being and expressed
Yes.
sufficiently clearly for them to say, okay, we can help now.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think some of the things you described, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like uh, you've probably at certain places had some attachments, some spiritual attachments. And I mean, who knows exactly where they're coming from, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it could be in my cosmology, it could be anywhere from kind of those lower aspects of the earth plane into probably the whatever upper to middle hell range.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you're dealing with the worst of the worst. The dark cloud thing, who knows? But it's probably somewhere in that range too. but yeah, I mean, when we and people don't, most people they don't understand these really basic laws, like the spiritual law of attraction that like uh, spiritual conditions on this plane, well, and this works everywhere in the universe, but on Earth, it's such a mixed bag. You really see the effects. Like
Hmm.
spiritual conditions attract like spiritual conditions. So if we're making choices toward greater separation, uh, disharmony, these kinds of things, we are in our own way inviting forces in harmony with those things to form a rapport with us, to form a relationship with us. And yeah, it's a really it's much more common than people realize. And even like, you talked about your kind of rapid attachment to this person and things. It's like it's pretty clear to me that that person had one or more, I'll call them darker entities attached to them,
Hmm.
obsessing and or I mean, possession, it's kind of this range. I'm no expert on these things, but the spirits can have all kinds of influence on people to the extent that we give them permission to have influence over us. So that person had that stuff, and either part of that person's team or someone, one or more spirits that were kind of with you looking for certain things, might have helped to form a more rapid attachment where then you had to ask for help in order to get out of it. But that's the thing. I mean,
Hmm.
so many people, they don't know that they can't ask for help. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know basic practices like drawing in the cloak of protection for
Right.
themselves and for other people. And they don't know that they can ask these things for other people. I remember this is reminding me of a show that I kind of watched for a while on streaming. It was called Psychic Kids, Children of the
Oh, yeah.
Paranormal. And I watched that show, and it was just amazing to me how the parents of these kids that they knew, I mean, they knew nothing of spiritual laws or realities or any of these things, and they were at a complete loss as to what to do. They were as afraid of their kids, of these various things that were going on. And a few of the episodes, there was something that was more of this really dark stuff. Most of what these kids were dealing with, it was earthbound spirits, earth plane
Yeah.
spirits, people who are just kind of stuck here. They're not willing to go to higher places. They're not on a path of progress. They're more just replaying a loop, and not really necessarily super aware of their situation. Some of them know they're dead, some of them don't. It's a really mixed bag that way. Um, yeah, I found that show fascinating because I just watch it. Yeah, and I watch these psychics like, teaching them about the cloak of protection. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, this is like, okay, this is 101, but that's where they're
Hmm.
at, right? It's like this is the most basic kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm kind of grateful to know what I know for whatever reasons that I know it. Yeah, and I'm amazed at how many people they don't appreciate the power of their choices, that their choices are literally drawing to them every moment of their lives, either spiritual forces of light and love that are aligned with those choices and or spirits of darkness or relative darkness that are aligned with those kinds of choices. And we all do it all the time and we don't realize that we're doing it and that it actually has an impact on our physical health, our mental health, the quality of our lives and our relationships. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
boy. And your story also reminded me, I remember hearing one time, like I find it fascinating. I've been having some conversations, and actually these are related to the podcast because people have been listening to podcast episodes and then they're coming back to me on social media platforms with like questions or
Oh.
whatever, these kinds of things. And and folks have some really interesting ideas. I had never thought of NDEs in the ways that people were talking about these things, near death experiences.
Hmm.
It just like to me, they're just a thing that happens to people who go through the trauma of dying and coming back. Like
Hmm.
that's all an NDE is to me. I mean, and I know different people have different experiences. Some people come back with, a whole range of new abilities. Other people come back with a passion for life. Other people come, there's all these possibilities. And a lot of people don't even remember their NDE, right? They were dead for
Right.
6 minutes. They come back and they're just like, all I remember is blackness. I don't remember
Hmm.
anything from it. Um, but I've heard once, at least once, or a couple of times, and I think one of these stories I actually heard in person, if I'm recalling it correctly. I think this was when I was in undergrad, and I don't know what group I was in or something, but someone shared something about an NDE. And most NDEs that you hear about online, it's people going to heavenly places, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're meeting with Jesus or whoever, and all whatever they're experiencing that way. But this person claimed to have an NDE where they actually went to what they would consider to be hell. Um,
Mm.
and I find, I find that a legitimate possibility. Like I'm inclined to anyone who's going to share an NDE with me, I'm going to believe that they believe what they remember, right? Like I'm not going to say, "Oh, you're making it up and you're just seeking attention." That's not where I'm coming from. But what I do sense a lot is that there's people have NDEs, and then our material minds, our brains have this ability to impose all kinds of meanings on them that may not have been with the original experience. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
something can happen to you, and then you tell yourself a story about what happened to you, and you believe the story when the
Right.
story doesn't necessarily reflect the entirety of the truth of what happened to you to the extent that you're aware of it. And I think this is true. And I think this person was someone who, like, they converted to Christianity, I think, because of their experience, because they saw hell as this place of eternal torment and all this that no one ever escapes. And I'm not saying that there isn't some truth to that, because it's not easy to get out of these places. I'm saying it's
Mm-hmm.
possible, but people need help. And to get the help, like we've talked about, you have to ask. And if you're not willing to ask for the help, then you can't get the help. Very simple
Mm-hmm.
law of attraction or desire. Like to get help, you got to ask for it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I just, I, if someone shared with me that kind of NDE, one where they experienced awfulness, I would tend to believe them. And the people who experience awesomeness, I'm going to tend to believe them too, because I think that a person can go to any of those places and everywhere in between in an NDE, because I don't think it's because the person they were in the comments they were making about the one episode on reincarnation, they're saying something like they thought that NDEs had this like deep, profound spiritual purpose. And I'm like, I thought it's just what happens when people die and come back. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that they can't serve a profound spiritual practice, but I don't, I just consider them a strange because these kinds of things don't happen on other planets because people don't die and come back the way we do. We have this traumatic reality where people can be in a car accident and leave their body and then, oh, they're resuscitated and they come back. And like this doesn't happen anywhere else in the universe, almost entirely. So this planet is, we're just so weird on this planet that we can have these experiences. And I just, it never occurred to me to attach deep spiritual meaning to these things. Again, I know that for some people they're transformational and that they change the entire trajectory and direction of their life, but other people they don't. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, yeah. So well we're pretty much wow in the we're really in the home stretch here. We're like sliding into home in terms of our time frame for this conversation that we've
Mm-hmm.
allotted. So anything that you want to, I guess we can't go too deep on it, but that you'd like to bring into the conversation, any other questions or things that have popped up for you before we wrap?
I guess just how how do you think people should feel about these beings? Because I know a lot of people are very afraid, and then there's also people that kind of have this like healthy respect fear type thing, and then there's people that are like, oh, these aren't really dangerous at all, like if you have the right protection, like you could
Mm,
waltz up to them and talk to them, like that kind of thing. Like
yeah,
how do you think people like how do you think we should view it like in a healthy way?
yeah. No, that's a really good question. For me, the way I think about it is that I guess I'll start with myself, and I'm not claiming this is the ideal, but I do my best in my choices, however imperfectly I make them, to make choices in the direction of light, love, harmony, truth, goodness, and beauty. And so in doing that, then I'm doing my best to minimize my potential connections and rapport with, say, anything from kind of the earth plane down.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not interested in forming a rapport with those guys because I know they can't tell me anything that's going to really help me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because their perceptions are actually more limited than my own.
Mm.
So, and again, perception is a function of spiritual development. So why would I want to hang with anyone who isn't at least, I mean, and I'm talking in a spiritual sense, like spirits, who's at least as evolved as me, right? I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, okay. But that's the thing. There are people, like you said, they're completely undiscerning. They're like, oh wow, this spirit told me what was going to happen tomorrow. Well, okay. Um, but why are they telling you that? And how was it achieved? And what do they want from you? What do they want you to give them? Oh, do they want your energy, your attention, your devotion, your faith, your trust? What do they want? And again, it could be relatively innocent from more of a earth plane spirit, but it could be really nefarious, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So for me, and I know people who they go into these places of spirit attachment with different populations, and they help with these things. Um, I don't feel that that's work I'm called to do. So there are people called to do this work. Some of them I feel really know what they're getting into and what they're dealing with. And some of them I feel have this sort of carefree attitude that is extremely dangerous,
Yeah.
where they don't really appreciate the potential harm in engaging with these types of entities who are, they're deluded. Like, I mean, these are, like they could be a deceased serial killer. They could be a deceased rapist. They could be a
Hmm.
deceased warmonger or war profiteer, or take your pick. I mean, the possibilities for who's in these lower places is all over the map. So, yeah, I think it's important. I'm not a fan of fear. I
Hmm.
don't, because fear comes from separation. So if I choose fear, if I choose to be afraid of anyone or anything, then I am denying my own power, my own agency, the power of the source, the power of the laws of creation that promote harmony and wholeness. So I'm not interested in the fear thing. I am interested in people doing their best to be aware of what's really going on and to establish their own practices, their own protective practices that work for them. And I encourage people in the conditions on this planet, because the planet's still a really mixed bag of all kinds of light and darkness, that we I pray for protection. I I ask for protection for myself and for my family and for others all the time, all the
Hmm.
time. Like it's just what I do. And because I know that, I mean, I would love to be able to ask once and have it be a once and done deal, but I know it doesn't work that way because of my own choices, because of my own lack of relative lack of development, that I need to keep asking for help so that
Yeah.
the forces of light and goodness, harmony, truth, beauty, and goodness can give me the help and the support that I need. Um, yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, not fear, but uh, but awareness and I think, and I don't think it makes sense either to hate or revile these forces of darkness, because for me, if I'm right, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but if they are not inherently evil, if they have the potential to grow, to change, to heal, to develop, to leave their places of darkness, then those beings, in my estimation, they deserve my love. Not that I'm going out there and looking to shower it on them or anything, but when I become aware of them in their situations, I would do my best to choose to express love as an invitation for them to change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I don't want to revile them. I don't want to separate myself from them, because the only way that they can have any kind of rapport with me is the fact that I also have something within me that resonates with them. And so I want to work on that stuff within me that would attract anyone or anything like that to me so that I don't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I'm working on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, it's perhaps it goes without saying, but I'll say it and we'll need to wrap here shortly, that source, creation, there is so much help available to each and all of us for the asking. And the biggest deficit on this planet is that we don't ask. We don't ask for the help. We don't ask for the love, for the light that it's our birthright as children of the source to have that can help us to navigate and negotiate these circumstances on this planet, this mixture of lightness and dark, this combination of dark intentions and desires, whether they're expressed through embodied people or spirits. We have all of this help, this ridiculous abundance of help available. And it makes me a little bit sad when I contemplate how few of us ask for so little of what's actually available.
Mm.
It's like we're all sitting on billions of dollars of gold and we're like looking and being like, I'm poor. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have enough. And source and the angels of light and love and all the bright progressive spirits, they're all sitting here saying like, dude, just ask. Please ask and I can help you, but I have to respect your free will choice. Please let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
They're like begging us to help them while we're in denial of the abundance that's available to us. So yeah, we don't have to be at the mercy or the yeah, we don't have to be victims of these forces. We don't have to be at their mercy. We can, make choices to break that rapport and to build our rapport with light and love and goodness and all of the awesomeness that exists in the vastness of the cosmos. So,
Mm-hmm.
are you good, Claire?
I am good. That was great.
I guess I'm good too. So we'll hope that that's a wrap and that it will maybe be helpful to some folks. We'll see. So, okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Wake Up Call for the Soul with Bill and Claire. May we love ourselves and all more and more with each passing moment. We wish you the very best and highest. Until next time.